Welcome everybody. Welcome to our webinar on forestry operations. I'd like to start by respectfully acknowledging the Gunnar Kurnai and Bunurong people and their elders past and present, where I'm coming from today, which is just on the border of Druin and Warragul. I'm actually smack bang in both Gunnar Kurnai and Bunurong country. So I wanted to extend or respectfully acknowledge them today and extend our respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples who may be on the screen. So my name's Louise Underhill and I'm the Head of Department for Food and Fibre, Forestry and Maritime at TAFE Gippsland. And really pleased that you could join us this evening. We're really excited to bring to you a program that we're wanting to put on for 2026. You may not know, but TAFE Gippsland has a really strong reputation in training into the forestry sector, and we're really very excited to talk about it tonight, and really great to have Lisa Goodwin along to be able to talk from a regional perspective of the sector, so from someone that actually lives and breathes in forestry. So over the next 20 to 30 minutes or so, we're going to provide you with some information on this new certificate program we're offering, which is Certificate 2 in Forest Operations. And we're going to hear from Lisa from the Gippsland Forestry Hub and, you know, to showcase that it is a thriving industry and discuss some of those careers in the sector. And then we're going to open up the floor to some questions and answers. However, please feel free whilst we're chatting if you want to unmute. I'm really happy to take questions going forward. Also happy for you to use the chat if that's more comfortable for you. So in terms of the program that we're offering, the Certificate 2 in Forest Operations is being introduced for the very first time. It's been developed in conjunction with the Gippsland Forestry Hub and the forestry sector. So TAFE recently, over the last couple of years, has been really reviewing our forestry department and identified a need for a new entrant training program, specifically for secondary school students to showcase those careers that are on offer. And so next year, we're planning on commencing a pilot program as a vet delivered in secondary school, which will be run over 2 years. That equates to 1 day a week where you would attend TAFE over 32 weeks per year. And the course will also include lots of hands-on learning activities, excursions to industry, guest speakers, and of course, we're going to recommend industry structured workplace learning, or your fancy word for work experience, because that's really where you're going to embed that theory that you'll learn in the classroom with some practical application of those skills. In regards to the qualification, it will allow for some specialisation into 4 areas. However, I'll probably let Lisa discuss those specialisations a little bit more in what she's going to present to us later on. But really, when it comes down to it, it doesn't matter what part of forestry you're interested in. This particular Certificate 2 course will be the perfect entry course for you to enter the industry. There's lots of people want to know about the actual units of competency, or in other words, subjects that we'll be teaching as part of this program. And I've got them listed up on the screen. As part of the course, there are 5 core units and then 8 electives. And you can see there's a variety of subjects from communication, work health and safety, through to weed, pest and disease control, fire prevention and cultural awareness. So the qualification is quite broad, and that is going to allow you to specialise in those 4 different areas. And it will suit those of you that might be interested more in the conservation activities, such as replanting, through to those wanting a career in the harvesting sector. So we've worked very hard with Gippsland Forestry Hub and in Lisa in particular to ensure that they're relevant for those wanting to enter the sector after graduating. And I think it's really important to note, we had a bit of a discussion before tonight's presentation, is that it is a thriving industry. Forestry is not the dying industry that perhaps we may have seen through the media. There is lots of opportunities for a real professional career span.
So, Lou, can I just jump in there? The units that we developed with TAFE Gippsland was around making sure that someone was job ready So though, if you've done that course or this course that we're trying to get off the ground, you actually can be employed and work your way through and have many pathways. So it was around making sure that you could actually straight away get a job and then work your way through the industry. So I just wanted to highlight why we chose those units.
Thanks, Lisa. Really good points. And I think that's actually probably one of the most important things that I would like you to really take away tonight is that this is a course with career outcomes. It is a course that will get you ready to be in the workplace. So it's not something that you do that's nice to do and we can leave it to an aside because it doesn't get you a role. There are roles there, and this is the wonderful thing about having Lisa involved in tonight's presentation. So what I'll do is I'll just give a little bit of an introduction for those that don't know Lisa. And Lisa, I did take this photo offline without asking, so apologies in advance. But Lisa's had over 25 years of experience in education and training and stakeholder relationship management. Also project management, business management, and that's all been within the forest and timber industry. So we're really lucky tonight to have Lisa, who really is an expert in the field when it comes to the forestry sector, and particularly in Gippsland. So she's a very highly skilled and results-driven professional. You'll hear from her in a moment, and you'll see that for yourself. She's got a really a strong, proven track record in managing projects and programs. And, you know, on top of all that, she's the general manager for Gippsland Forestry Hub. And I've just taken a screenshot of what the Gippsland Forestry Hub is all about. And it really is around that promotion of sustainable forest and wood products for the industry. So without further ado, I'm going to manage the screen for the PowerPoints, but Lisa's going to take you through a few slides. And yeah, I'd invite you to ask questions of Lisa as we're going through. All right.
Thanks, Lou. Lisa. Can I just ask, maybe we play the video first and then we can go through some job roles and then there can be questions, and so that might be a better way to lead into it.
I'll just share where the course will run from. Like, will it be Morwell?
It's proposed for Morwell at this stage, yeah.
Yep.
And that's probably one of our main hubs for a lot of our training these days, Morwell campus. However, we'll look to see where where most students are coming from, and if there was an opportunity to deliver that elsewhere, we would. But we have chosen Morwell at the moment because it really is a close and convenient location to some of the other industry excursions that we would want to go to. I'll just, hopefully I'm sharing my screen and hopefully I'm going to do this correctly. Please tell me if you can't hear the audio.
G'day, my name's Jack Carter and I'm an environmental forester. Welcome to my office. I don't just love the outdoors.
Sometimes this happens.
Exploring forests and discovering, recording and protecting threatened animals and plants that make this their home. It's my job. I've always loved the outdoors and learning more about the natural world. In high school, I did biology, maths and philosophy. At uni, I studied a Bachelor of Science majoring in ecology. That led me to become an environmental forester. It's a great fit with my values, skills and my passion for the environment, and provides a flexible lifestyle as my life changes. I can work all over Australia and around the world. The production forests where I work are certified as sustainably managed, which means we work to ensure these forests and all the products sourced from them are amongst the most sustainable in the world. We perform environmental due diligence assessments prior to harvesting our plantations to ensure we know what environmental assets are present and that we have the appropriate procedures in place to protect them. As an environmental forester, I use my outdoor bush reading skills and my science knowledge, along with tech skills, to carry out land management and rehabilitation activities. I conduct plant and animal surveys in order to assess forest health. To detect animals, I use both bush signs like scratchings, diggings and scats, as well as different technology and tools. See this scat? It's from an emu. It's great to see evidence like this as it helps to identify what's living in the forest. See the marks on this tree? That's evidence of a possum. I'll get to use fun tech like drones and motion sensor cameras like these ones I'm setting up to check for the presence of threatened species as well as feral pests like foxes, deer and pigs. One of the most exciting aspects of my job is flicking through the photos captured by wildlife motion cameras and spotting a rare or threatened species we didn't know was there. Over the last few years, we've installed nesting boxes across our forest estate to provide safe homes for threatened species like the red-tailed black cockatoo, large forest owls and gliders. My advice to get a start in an environmental forestry career is to take any opportunity you can get. Whilst you're there, ask as many questions as you can. But most of all, get outside, have a look around you, take note of what's there. There's a whole amazing living world out there to be discovered.
Thanks, Lou.
Thank you.
What we might do is be able to send the video out to everybody so they can watch it. There's a couple of videos like that with different job roles. And so I think they're really informative and they're done by Forest Learning. So they're a really good tool if you want to sort of showcase it to your students that there is a numerous amount of different roles within the industry. And these videos really highlight the great opportunities that these kids have. So I'll send a couple across to Lou and she can send them out and we'll go from there.
That'd be great, Lisa, because it had a bit of a delay on. So
it did.
Yeah, it would be really great. Thank you.
I'll
just start sharing your PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Okay. Right. So just I'm not going to go into great detail and I'm not going to read it. I'll just sort of give you a couple of snippets, but I'm employed by the Commonwealth Government to help the forest industry write up technical reports for any issues, concerns, anything that's going on within our industry at this time. And I've been employed now for 4 years to do it. Just signed off on a new contract until 2027 to continue doing it. And part of that, part of our Gippsland Forestry Hub, which there's 12 across Australia, but part of ours, which is not often in other hubs, is that we also do a lot of education stuff. Hence the reason why I was employed to do it, because I actually come from an industry, forest industry education hub. So I manage the consultants that do a lot of the reports for me, and and then I focus a lot on the education side, so we keep that going. It's very important. I do a lot of tours out in the bush with schools, or I go out to schools and I actually present to schools on the different roles and the different opportunities of the industry. I actually went out to one at Leongatha last week, a private school out there, and we talked about environmental science and carbon. And I'm not really great on that, but I do a lot of reading before I go out. But you know, it's all important. So this slide is it, and I'll get Lou to send this out to you as well, so then you've got it on hand so you can actually look back on it. And then if you want to shoot me an email or give me a call to go through anything else in detail, I can certainly do that with you. But if we just go down to the careers, the second page, Lou, the third page, sorry. And if you have a look at the different careers that we've got, you know, people tend to think, oh, it's just harvesting, you're bringing down a tree. It's not like that at all. It's so technical, and there's so much science in forestry, which is so important to make sure that we are environmentally sustainable. And we tick off. We have an extreme amount of legislation around the industry. We have to be certified, and it's a very strict certification. Vic Forest could never get certification, hence that's probably one of the reasons why, unfortunately, the native was closed down. We are extremely large in private plantation. When I say private, it means large companies own private plantations or farmers own plantations. I'm doing a big body of work at the moment with farm forestry and trying to coincide or marry up with your cows and your pigs or your sheep and have a plantation on their property as well. So there's a lot of work being done in that space. So if you have a look across, I sort of highlighted roles, if you like, or sectors, if you like. And then we'll delve down to, if we go to the next slide, Lou, you sort of look at the forestry and environmental careers in our industry, and we sort of look at fire protection. Fire is massive in our industry, as you'll be fully aware of living in Gippsland. And that's, if people want to be a firefighter, well, then they can also be a firefighter in the forest industry and be a part of that. We are a part of the CFA. We work alongside the CFA, and 9 times out of 10, the forest industry will always, and I mean all the businesses in the forest industry, will get to the fire before the CFA does, because we've got to protect your asset, we've got to protect our asset. So it's really extremely important. There is, I think, 180 registered in Gippsland that work within the forest industry. So they could be contractors, they could work for HVP, that line up with the CFA and actually fight fires. So it's an extremely important part of our work. Foresters, forest technicians, carbon storage specialists, everybody knows that carbon is a massive part in our industry, as well as a lot of other industries. But in our industry, we sequestration carbon. So we are the most environmentalist connection, which is forestry. It's, you cut down a tree, you store that carbon in your desk, in your bed, in your house. We continue to store carbon where steel never does. It's actually in the negative. And plastic never does, it's in the negative. So we are one of the positive environmentalists in the world, which is timber. Next slide. So harvesting, and as I said, everyone sort of tends to steer towards harvesting and operations. It's a really major important part of our industries, because we've got to actually make sure that when you look at the silviculture processes, that's actually preparing land, planting for a rotation, and then you've got harvesting that comes in. But we also harvest throughout that rotation. Our rotations normally range from 23 years to maybe 30 years, depending on what the timber is marked for. We don't always, we have a lot of our timber from Gippsland go into the pulp mill to make your paper, and to make cardboard, and that's probably around 80% in Gippsland. But across Victoria, it's 80% A grade, if you like, which goes into timber housing and furniture. But in Gippsland, it's the reverse. It's 80% goes off to the pulp mill, 20% go out to different products. So there's a whole range of roles within the harvesting and operations. So it's not just, I want to jump in a machine. Absolutely, if you want to jump in a machine, that's great. But there's a whole lot of other roles within that sector. I mean, and silviculture is probably one of the main ones, because if we don't have the silviculture processes, we don't have the trees to harvest. And so that's an extremely important part of the life cycle. Thanks, Lou. Anyone stop me if you want to ask a question too, because I'll just keep going. Engineering. So I often go to schools and kids will always say to me, oh, I want to be a boilermaker, or I want to be an engineer. You wouldn't believe how many engineers we need within our industry. One of the biggest hurdles we have in our industry when it comes to machinery is that all the machinery gets brought from overseas. we don't have the technical skills here in Australia to actually fix those machines. We actually have to wait till night time or whatever to call overseas to get machinery fixed, etc. So really, it's a skills gap in our industry, is to try and get new technical engineers into our industry so we can actually have those machines fixed on site instead of having to do the long distance, which is what we do now. And environmental engineers, I mean, that's a huge part of our industry. As I said, we are, most of our industry is FSC approved. If you go into Bunnings, you will see on their timber the sticker FSC approved. That's because we've taken it from a natural resource. We are actually certified. It's all above board and law, and that's a big job to have someone go around to all of our industry looking at making sure that we're doing the right thing every time on, in the harvesting processes. So there's many jobs in there. Next one, Lou. Timber processing and manufacturing. Well, that there's, I can't tell you how many jobs that sit within that process. Our saw doctor and our wood machinist are our only two apprentices that we have, and unfortunately for Lou, we TAFE Gippsland don't do those apprenticeships, which they should, but they don't. We do have one over at Creswick that actually does both those apprenticeships. So we only have two in their industry. However, every other qualification under the Forestry banner can be done through TAFE. So it's only those two that we can't do. Next one. Science and research. Well, as I said, it just goes to, and I know you are teaching your students. There's a whole lot of different, compared to when we went to school, to how the teachers are teaching today, and it really is around environmental control and climate change. And so our research and our science base is just second to none. And we've got probably one of our biggest research centres that we have. I would say would be probably one down at the nursery, which is at Gallendale, down at just past Yarra, Port Arthur. That's one of our biggest research or labs, if you like. But we have an amazing centre in Queensland that actually does majority of our research across forestry actually gets done out of our Queensland lab, which is an incredible thing to go and see. If students would go up, well, I know Queensland students visit there all the time, but if Australian students could go up and have a look and see the difference and see what they do in the labs and see how they actually are quite innovative. I went to one not long ago where they were burning wooden timber floors to an absolute highest degree because they were going to be putting them up in high-rise buildings, and they had to actually test them to make sure that they were accessible and approved. And it's incredible to watch what they do in the lab. So that in itself, if you want to be a lab technician, it's amazing the different roles within as a lab technician. It's not just about pests and weeds. I mean, you can do that too, but it's there's a whole range of stuff. Thanks, Lou. Admin support. So, everybody needs admin support, like especially with the IT. We've gone into a whole lot of high-tech drones now. The machines are very high-tech. You actually have to send a lot of your information on the day if you're out in a harvester. It actually gets electronically sent back to any company around Australia of what you've actually harvested on that day. So it's no paper and pen. It's all high tech. It all gets sent back via Wi-Fi. So a lot of technical parts are in that as well. So, but administration is really, really important, and logistics is really important too. We've got trucks going all over Australia with logs or product, and so logistics is a huge part within our industry. Thanks, Lou. Trades and maintenance. Wow, everyone wants to be a tradie, and we need them. We certainly have a lot of gaps in this space. So once again, as I said, the store doctor is an apprenticeship, but the maintenance fit electrician. So we have it all here. You know, all of our sawmills and across Australia, but especially in Gippsland, we've got one of the biggest sawmills in Australia, sits up in Hayfield. And the technical maintenance that needs to keep that operation going is that they would have probably 30, if not more, or probably need more, should I say, electricians, maintenance fitters. It's sort of a similar operation to like Loy Yang and Opal Sawmill. It's an amazing feat to keep those machines operating. And so it's not one or two people. They have easily 30 to 40, if not more, different varieties of technicians out there every day. So that's a really important one for us. And it's a skill that we really struggle to get people in, because they tend to go to Loy Yang or they go out to other power stations. So our industry really suffers trying to get the people in to do this bit of work. But it's exactly the same work, just a different model, if you like. Still, it's an electrician, it's a plumber, it's a maintenance fitter. It's the same. They go to TAFE, they learn that. It's all the same skills. It's just a different industry. And so we have to compete against the biggest industries, which is Loy Yang, the gas plant. It's really hard for us to get these people in our industry. Thanks, Lou. So career pathways. So we can definitely do like the vet apprenticeship, entry-level roles and trades, which is what we're looking at now. And TAFE, technical training, production, technical admin, university degrees. So if they want to come in and do the cert too, they can certainly then apply for university after, because there is pathways. One of probably the biggest pathways into university that we have in our industry is environmental science. And then you do your forestry components. So we don't actually have, we used to, but we don't unfortunately have just a one forestry university course. We have the environmental and forestry components are put into that university course for 4 years. And that's where we're getting most of our university students coming out of that, is they have to do the environmental science. But that's a good thing because they still get their forestry components, but they're also getting the environmental science. So they're actually adding value to our industry compared to just doing a straight forestry. And it also offers them a whole lot of pathways to any of the sectors through our industry. And obviously there's a lot of on-the-job training done throughout our industry, because we do, most of the time it's quite easy to bring people from within and train them up, and then send them off to a TAFE course if we need extra training to happen. Thanks, Lou.
So, Lisa, can I just ask a question? So, would any of these employers consider having kids that want to do like a school-based apprenticeship?
Yeah. So if you're doing they would. It just depends on what field they want to do it to, where I could put them.
Yeah.
So there is a few so all the companies across, well, most of the companies across Gippsland, should I say, have put their hand up to say they will help with work experience, to give the kids some experience. When it comes to a bigger opportunity than that, it'd have to be depending on what the child's wants and needs are, as to where we could put them, to whether they'd be able to take on. Absolutely. But yeah, the whole industry is open to it, because they fully understand that we've got these gaps, and the only way we're going to be able to fill these gaps is to actually bring the students into our industry. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. I would say yes. I'll tell you a quick story about one I did with Traralgon College, So they had a young fella there. They rang me up and they said, Lisa, we had this young fella that's doing a cert to his VCAL program was environment, but he really wants to get into forestry. Can you help us? And his name was Clancy. You'll see it up on our website. Have a look on our website. He's got a story up there. And I said, yeah, absolutely. I said, I'll talk to HVP and I'll see if they can actually take him on. They took him on for his 22-week VCAL slot, whatever. I can't remember exactly how many weeks, but it was 22 weeks, I think. He went there every Friday. Do you know he has a full-time position with them now? He has a company car and he's only just 21. He started when he was 18 with them. And so he did his 22 weeks and they put him on as a summer crew and then they put him on as a full-time forester.
Yeah.
And that was all through his VCAL program. So if the child is really passionate about it and really wants to get into forestry, HVP would be my ideal world because they have different roles within their company, which helps the students maneuver through all different tasks. They don't necessarily just get put into something and then that's it, that's where you're staying. You've got your harvesting crew, you've got your silviculture crew, you've got your GIS crew, you've got your science and lab crew, you've got your admin crew, so which is your accounting, all of that stuff. So they're a really good opportunity for any student because they can get manoeuvred around the whole business within their 20 week, I think it was 20 weeks, 22 weeks. Anyway, the story's up on our website. Have a look. Read Clancy's story because it's really good. And he's just turned 21, got a company car, working full-time for HVP and loving it. And he's doing a lot of the fire stuff because that was where his passion was. He was a CFA volunteer, but he's learned now, I think he manages silviculture crews, but also is right in there with their fire management system. So he actually is one of the first that goes around with the fires and stuff. So it's a great story. So yeah, there is companies out there that are interested in taking the kids on.
It's on, yeah. So actually, I've got just one more
Oh.
question. Yeah. So sorry. So to be a fireman in the industry, do you have to be 21 like to be a paid firey? Like
No, say for example you went with HVP. Clancy was 17 years old. He didn't have a license. He was doing his VCAL through Traralgon College and didn't even have a license, but they took him on to do his VCAL program. That once he got his license, he then went on to the summer crew. And so with HVP don't have that restriction like the CFA does. So they put you all through the training. And so Clancy was, I think he just turned 18 when he worked through their summer crew as a firefighter. They put him through so every year they do a health. So they've got to go in and do a health check. So and that's all done through HVP. So they get the nurse out on site at HVP in Churchill. And each person, and that's including contractors, including HVP staff, everyone has to go through the health check, and it's like a half an hour where they go through with the nurse. If that's all ticked off, then they go into fire training. So HVP do fire training days. And then they work in the summer crew and they get certificates. So HVP will continually put them through. So their first one, I think, is like it's like a Cert 2 in it's not a qualification, it's a certificate, and there's like 5 or 6 that they do through their fire training. Yeah. And then they can get their way up to a team leader and a sec leader and a fire leader and all of that stuff. So they can continue on, become the truck driver of the fire truck, because HVP have got their own fire trucks and I think there's something like 79 fire vehicles throughout the summer period. So, you know,
Yeah.
it's a great opportunity.
And Bev, it'll be very similar to what DECA do. So DECA will
Yep.
take on fire crews from the age of 18. So that is the only restriction is that age. And that really comes down to more of a child safety thing. You know, once you're 18, there's less of those worries, I suppose. But yeah, good question.
Yeah, but yeah, and you're right. DECA does it in the summer crew and HVP do a summer crew.
So I've got a question, Louise. Yeah, sorry. So what about someone, for example, who might have done year 11 or year 12 a couple of years ago? They might have been working in trade or casual work. Are there opportunities for them to move into, you know, career pathways in the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. That you know, and one of the courses that we did 2 years ago was for unemployed and transitional workers. So we did a 2-week course in that respect. Lou, you're quite happy to take on external?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if they're a little bit older, we may push them more into a certificate 3 in forest operations, just because they would do that in a shorter period of time as well, rather than the BET-DSS program that we're talking about. The VCAA, so the Victorian Curriculum Assessment Authority, mandates it has to be a 2-year program. But we're looking at other opportunities. And Catherine, I know we've talked about this in previous meetings about doing a faster tracked program in a Cert 2 for those that are already left school, or a certificate 3. And you can do that as a traineeship.
Yeah. No worries, that's great. Because we obviously have a whole diverse cohort as well. So yeah, we have, you know, obviously still it's students who are still at school, so school-based trainees, but then moving through to people that might have left school a couple of years ago and are looking for, you know, career pathways. But then also there's a huge cohort out there at the moment of career changes. So, you know, sort of 25 to 35-year-olds saying, look, you know, I've done this, you know, might have left school at 15 or 16, they've done something for 10 or 15 years and then going, actually, you know, I'd like to make a switch and retrain in an area that I'm really interested in. So just sort of looking at what's available in this industry for those types of people as well.
Yeah, definitely the Cert 3, as Lou said, would be ideal for people that are actually transitioning from different roles or different jobs, if you like. But it's also about linking up with employers, to make sure that although they're doing the qualification, you do want them to have that pathway to be able to get into employment. And that's the key. And that's why we decided the VCAL program was the opportunity, because we don't want them to do it and then not be employed.
Absolutely, for sure. And so with the career outcomes, so are they aligned with like the ANZCO career outcomes? Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, there's been a lot of work done on that one for the forest industry.
I'm sure it has. Yeah, absolutely. And do you have a list? Do you have a list of those, or?
Yeah, I'll send it over to Lou for you. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, that'd be fantastic. And then we can sort of align that with some of the projects that we've got going on as well.
Yeah, no, that's no worries at all.
Yeah, cool.
I think probably just to add to that too is that you know, it's been really great, Lisa, for you to talk about the careers in the sector, and it's great getting that from someone who's living and breathing. And you can see that there actually is such a broad career options for people. You know, whether it is the planting through to, you know, in a piece of machinery, firefighting, being an admin. There's a breadth of careers in there. And the government is invested in forestry. So, and TAFE Gippsland is involved, and Gippsland Forestry Hub will be as well, with a national contract at the moment. And TAFE Gippsland is one of 3 RTOs nationally that are delivering under forestry workforce training program. So there's many millions of dollars that have been put into that program, and it's all about having a career pathway for people, upskilling those that are in the workplace, making this a profession, not just a job, because it is a career. It's not just a job, it is a career. And making sure that there are those linkages. So Lisa showed a slide earlier about, you know, what might that look like from a training perspective. You can enter TAFE, where could you go from there? We have lots of partnerships with higher ed institutes you know, for pathway through to degrees. But we have also really strong relationships where those that already hold degrees actually come back into vocational education. So, you know, I guess what I would love you to take away tonight is that there really is a thriving industry in Gippsland, and there are lots of different opportunities, no matter your age or you know, stage of career, to take that on board. I think it's important for, you know, schools to hear that message, parents, guardians, and of course, future students into the program. Lisa, did you want to talk about the last slide? Sorry, Lisa, I've just cut you off then.
It's just about why you should invest in a career in our industries. And we were saying this at the start of our conversation, was about we're not a dying industry. We're a very viable industry. And if you look at the news every day, like, we need so much more timber planted for houses. It just makes me wonder where we're going to get it from. However, you know, the industry is booming. The government have put in so much money to make sure that we transition into a plantation model, whether that be by larger companies or say, for example, you've got the big HVPs, you've got the heartwood plantations, or we're working a lot with farmers to coincide with their farming. So, you know, they farm a cow, they can farm a tree. That's the way we look at it. We're just farming. We're just farmers, really. And you know, for every tree that's harvested, we plant 3 new ones, and it's just the cycle. And so it's a really thriving industry. Yes, the government took away part of the native, and that's okay. You know, that's fine. But they have invested heavily in making sure, like, there was $120 million 2 years ago. This is only for one forest manager to buy up land and plant in Gippsland. And that's 120 million that the government gave this one company to continue growing so we can actually have trees, timber for homes. We import a lot. We bring a lot in, and we don't know how that's harvested. Is it sustainable? Is it environmentally friendly? Is it, you know, we don't know, but we do know what's happening in our backyard because we see it, we read about it, we understand it. So it's really important that we actually keep investing in our own backyard, because otherwise it will all go. But you know, we've got hardwood plantations, we've got softwood plantations, we've got mixed species plantations all across Gippsland, and you would see it as you're driving past. And it's okay that what they've done in the native, that's perfectly fine. But we do have a thriving industry, and we do have quite a lot of skill gaps. And so thankfully for us, we've got TAFE on our front doorstep saying, hey, here's an opportunity, and we're all for it, because we do need to get people into our industry, and there is many different roles. You know, as I said, people sort of need to, if you want to be a harvester in a big machine, that's all well and great, but there are so many others. I mean, the week before, I was out on a block for Gippsland Water, and they had the massive big drones, like a forester company manage Gippy Waters plantations, so they have all their own plantations. So they are farming trees on the Gippsland Water site. And I was out there with the drone, and this drone was like the size of a car. It was huge, and the enormity of it just got me. It was incredible, but it was spraying for weeds. You know, so if kids love their drones and stuff, and they want to be in a technical, you know, they have a technical mind and they want to do drones, what a perfect opportunity to get out in the bush. You're out in I'd love that as my office every day. So that there is huge amount of opportunities, and we are an aging population. So in our industry, so a lot of the really good long-time skilled workers are retiring, and so we really need to do something now. Otherwise, we're in trouble. Anyway, I could go on forever.
Very good, Lisa. And I think this slide that we've got up now, I'd encourage you to go to Gippsland Forestry Hub's website. They've got some great stories on there. Lisa's mentioned one tonight about Clancy. But there's many more good news stories there, and I think hopefully tonight you've learnt that the industry maybe is a little bigger than maybe what we've been told previous. So thank you, Lisa, for giving us that very informative presentation. So what I might do at the moment is I might just stop the recording, and then I'll open the floor up to questions. So just give me one moment.
I'll just say, Lou, while you're doing that, is that at any time